My name's Paul Collard. I'm Chief Executive of an international foundation called Creativity, Culture and Education. And we have been very lucky to work in partnership and to support the work of the Stiftung Mercator over the last few years. And I'm here today as part of this conference as we celebrate the 10 years of work in art education that Stiftung Mercator have developed and supported, not only in Germany, but in other countries in Europe. My job is to reflect on the work that has happened and to look a bit to the future of education in Europe and the challenges that we continue to face. I'm not going to go through the various programs that Stiftung Mercator have supported. They were wonderful. They have made huge differences to the lives of many thousands of young people. But I want to think a bit about the philosophy and the thinking that sits behind the work, because it is so close to the philosophy and thinking that sits behind the work of our foundation, Creativity, Culture and Education.
What I've come to realize is that learning is the most astonishing and wonderful thing that human beings have come up with. Learning makes us different from everything else in nature. Some bits of nature can do a little bit of learning, but not like human beings can do learning. And learning is the richest and most exciting thing we can do. The problem is that so many young people in the world today are locked out of learning. They're in school, they're being told things, they're acquiring knowledge, but they're not learning. And without that connection with learning, they're bored, disengaged, and not making progress. And our aim is to reconnect all those young people with the power of learning.
And the way we have discovered to reconnect young people with the power of learning is through unlocking their creativity. The skills that creativity bring to young people, the skills they enhance in young people, are the very skills that improve learning and make their capacity to learn in school much more powerful. But why is this so important? It's important because the world is changing and the needs we have of young people as they become adults and enter the workforce are very different from the needs we had 100 years ago. And if we are going to successfully prepare young people for this new world, then we need to adapt the nature of our education and the skills and understandings we develop. And this is a point felt strongly by Andreas Schlieker, who's Director of Education for the OECD. And here he is talking about the relationship of creativity to learning at a recent conference in Durham University.
Everyone talks about creativity, but I think we came to realize only very recently that this is an agenda where education and culture play such a central role. In one way, the kind of industrial approach to schooling, where children were educated in batches of age and all go through the same standardized and prefabricated curriculum and instruction, it hasn't really been conducive to nurturing the kind of creativity and innovation that we need in this age of accelerations. Things have changed, and the dilemma for educators is now that the routine cognitive skills, the skills that are easiest to teach and easiest to test, are exactly the skills that are also easiest to digitize, to automate, and to outsource. While we could still assume that what we learn in school will last for a lifetime, routine cognitive skills were rightly at the center of education. But today, the world no longer rewards us just for what we know. Google knows everything, but for what we can do with what we know. Schools now need to prepare students for more rapid change than ever before, to learn for jobs that have not been created, to tackle social challenges that we can't yet imagine, and to use technologies that have not been invented. What I mean is that these days we no longer know how things will unfold. Often we are surprised and we need to learn from the extraordinary. And sometimes we make mistakes along the way. And it will be often the mistakes and failures, when properly understood, that create the context for learning and for growth. And I might even go a step further. The ability to develop competencies is itself something to be learned, using reflection, anticipation, action. Reflective practice is needed to take a critical stance when deciding, choosing, acting, to step back from the established wisdom of our times and take a different perspective. Anticipation mobilizes cognitive skills such as analytical or critical thinking, to foresee what might be needed in the future or how actions that we take today might have consequences for the future. And both reflective practice and anticipation contribute to the willingness to take responsible actions, in the belief that it's within our own power that we can shape the course of events. Tomorrow's employees are probably going to work in very small organizations, using digital platforms to create new products and new services. And future jobs are likely to pair computer intelligence with the creative, social, and emotional skills, the attitudes and the values of human beings. It'll then be precisely our capacity for innovation, our awareness, and our sense of responsibility that will equip us to harness machines to shape the world for the better. So in whatever way you construct your list of 21st century skills, you'll always come across creativity in one or the other way. Creating new value as a transformative competency, bringing together the processes of creating, of making, of bringing into being and formulating, and looking for outcomes that are innovative, fresh, original, outcomes that contribute something of intrinsic positive worth. And creating new value suggests entrepreneurialism in the broader sense of being ready to venture, to try without anxiety about failure. This is all about imagination, inquisitiveness, persistence, collaboration, self-discipline.
The definition of creativity that Andreas finishes with in that video is one developed by Bill Lucas, Guy Claxton and Ellen Spencer for CCE 10 years ago. We needed a definition of creativity that artists, teachers, children and young people could understand, and the team from Winchester came up with the 5 habits of creative learning. They are to be inquisitive, persistent, imaginative, disciplined and collaborative, and developing these habits of learning in children and young people lies at the heart of all our international programs. We have learnt that these creative learning habits of mind remain valid across cultures and across continents because they are related to how we learn, which is true of all humans, and hence at the heart of the incredible diversity of children and young people across the world is a deep human commonality, creativity. And we have learnt that the learning environment that stimulates and develops our creativity is what we now call the high-functioning classroom, and you can see in the image. It is an environment in which children are challenged to think for themselves rather than give answers, where they are physically, socially and emotionally engaged, where the learning feels authentic and relevant to their lives, and their questions, interests and experiences shape the learning, where emotions are acknowledged and addressed, and where we learn to be deeply reflective. Now, we're not saying that low functioning is bad and high functioning is good. You need both styles to get deep learning. But if the low functioning and more traditional style of education is the only or the dominant kind of learning, then the full potential and capacity to learn of the children and young people will not take place. And so what is happening in schools today? When I go and visit a school for the first time, one of the activities I like to do is to give the children pieces of paper and pencils and say to them, "Do you know what learning is?" And they say yes.
And I go, do you know what drawing is? And they say yes. And I say, well then draw learning. And initially they're quite confused, but they think about it and then they start to produce drawings. And these are some of the drawings I've collected in my travels. So here you see learning is sitting behind your desk whilst the teacher is writing on the board. But what they're writing you can't really see because it's all like a fog. Or here again, learning is sitting in nice rows behind your desk whilst the teacher stands at the front and tells you things. But in the distance is the blue sky of freedom. Or here again, you've got learning. Learning is cross your legs, do not talk, look at the teacher. And I particularly like this one on the right, where the teacher is a battery on high heels. Or here's a more complex one. The Promethean is the whiteboard in the classroom, and the teacher in the top right is saying, what's 6 times 5? And this boy over here thinks the point of a question is to give an answer, and he's going, it's, but there's a red line across that because the point isn't to know the answer. The point is to face the front, legs crossed, hands up, don't call out, and don't get distracted. And here is your whole life. In 2002, at the top left, you're born and the little baby can only say goch. By 2005, they've learnt to say hello. By 2009 March, they've arrived in school and the teacher's asking them what 70 plus 10 is. And by May, they've worked it out, and 70 plus 10 is 80. Then it's fast forward to 2020 when they graduate from university, and then it goes on through 2021, and what you can see is the maths just gets more and more and more complicated until you die. That's the whole life of learning as we know it. This is in India. And here again, it's sitting behind the desk in nice little rows whilst the teacher stands at the front talking to you. And this child explained their drawing to me and says, at school, girls get separated from boys and teachers explains and the pupils listen. That's all that happens. At school, we learn to walk in straight lines. And this one was particularly sad because the child explained to me that what the drawing meant was that in the old days, before we polluted the world, we didn't need to go to school, but could learn outside in nature. So school has become the punishment for polluting the world. But why it's sad is it wasn't the children who polluted the world, it was the adults, but the children are having to pay the price and take the punishment. So I've done this in a number of places. But this is a photograph of a school in Chile that we've worked with very intensively over the last 3 or 4 years and who's developed a really fantastic creative learning practice. And I thought I'd never done the activity on these children, and so I thought it was worth trying it. And I met with a big group of them, I gave them drawings, and this is what I got back. This is a school in which we have worked hard on putting the high-functioning classroom at the centre of the practice, and where the 5 habits of learning are absolutely what the children are developing. So here's a drawing, and I'm pleased to say that they think learning is about the 5 habits, and they see that as central to what they do. And here's another drawing, and on the left-hand side it says not paying attention, and you can see the brain is off and all the cogs have stopped moving. But paying attention on the other side, on the right, the lights have gone green, the little cogs are whirring, and lots of learning is taking place. So learning is something that happens in your brain and you're responsible for. There's another picture of learning at Copernicus School. And I love this one, which is that learning is like an atomic explosion in your brain and those huge eyes of amazement at what you're discovering. And here again, you can see round the top, it goes yo no sabio, which I don't know, and then it goes I understand. Ah, what's this? Oh, it's this. So this constant process of
discovering and learning. But what I really like is that across her forehead she has drawn que bacán, which is Chilean for how cool. Learning is sitting in a field meditating with your friend. Learning is asking questions. Learning is just being cool. Now, it's a fantastically different vision of learning than you got from the other schools I was showing you. But what's most remarkable about it is that the teacher is not present there. What the children have learned is that learning is what they do and they have responsibility for. And when they take responsibility for learning and they do it, it's joyous, exciting, fascinating, developing, all the things that you could want. And wouldn't we all want to be learning in the way that those children show? I believe developing the voice of children and young people is the main purpose of education. It is not easy to do. It requires us to help them develop a strong and powerful identity, which allows them not only to have ideas, but the confidence to express them. We must offer them a range of medium and languages to explore, and we must reach out to even the most challenged young people who also have a right to a voice. In this video, you see a boy. He's almost completely blind and immobilized and unable to talk. He's working with an artist who has surrounded him with sensors which pick up his smallest movements and process them through a laptop. So these movements are converted into music, and for the first time, Louis is able to compose and express his own ideas and emotions. So what becomes quickly apparent, both from the Louis video and from the nature of the high-functioning classroom, that if we are going to give young people a real voice, and if we are going to connect them with learning, they need a range of media through which they can express that voice and explore different ideas. And this is where the arts in education becomes so important. It is the arts that bring this wide range of alternative ways of expressing yourself within the reach of children and young people, and allows them to connect with their creativity and in this way to strengthen their learning. You can see this clearly in the next video I'm going to show, where we worked with a group of young boys from very challenged backgrounds and on the verge of suspension from education. They were working on The Lord of the Flies, which is a famous English text, which was the set text for the key exams they were going to take at the age of 16. As the video explains, the teacher decided to take a radically different approach to exploring Lord of the Flies, taking the boys out into the forest to experience the Lord of the Flies directly.
I've always been quite excited about the project. I've always kind of felt that we were letting a lot of people down at school, or in schools generally.
Curly salmon sandwiches and how the ale did flow. They said the bride was lovelier than... Oh! Okay. Oh no!
Shut up and sit down.
Today we're demonstrating being disruptive.
Don't like asking questions.
People being silly. Too much writing.
Bullies. Talking and chatting.
Get distracted easily.
People being immature.
People talking.
What we decided to do is bring the boys out of the classroom down into the woods, and then we can build the fire and get them to start making the fire and looking for the firewood and building it up and then lighting it, and so they get the experience, the physical embodiment of the experience that the boys would have had on the island. So it's a symbol of the story, and reenacting out the story with different activities and exercises around the fire.
I'm going to handle me.
So try and choose one that hasn't got...
Oh my God!
I thought this would be a really good opportunity to show perhaps what could be done, and just to do something new and something exciting and something interesting.
Boys, I can't get the seal off it.
I reckon it's really good and people should do it more often.
Can I check that everybody's got their name on their stamp?
Like being in a classroom because it's all like hot and all, there's like so many rules, and then outside you can do what you want.
It's alright, actually it works better.
I'm Ralph, because they did stab and they only watched. These are the twins.
That's the captain at the end.
This is the monster.
That's the monster.
This is the pig on the stick.
That's my arrow.
That's Jack, that's Rolf.
This is like the rain. It's like when he's dead, like suddenly the rain came down.
I prefer being outdoors. Learn more as well. It's like really calming. Just like really relaxing, just take more in. Loads of people mess about in the class, and like they're like really calm down there doing all their work.
Year on, looking back, what are your thoughts now?
I'm positive about the whole experience, really. I think looking back at how the boys were a year ago compared to how they are now, there's been a real significant change in many of them, not all of them, but many of them. Some of them have really settled down academically, some of them have really settled down socially. Generally, the impact's been really positive. And are you just saying that because it was part of the project and we're asking you about it on camera? No, I really feel like that. If you look at the data academically from the results of the Lord of the Flies exam that they sat, 5 of those boys actually got C's, another 5 got D's, and that's just incredible considering their sort of backgrounds and how we expected them to perform. So they've really overachieved academically. And I think the other outcome is a social one as well. When I see those boys around the school, when I teach them, I've got a much closer relationship with them, I've got a much better understanding of them, and I think they've got a better understanding of me, and I think that really has helped us move forward academically and socially since the project finished.
I think it did help me because it was better than being in the classroom, and I think I done better in the exam than I would have done if we just stayed in the class and learned.
I enjoyed it and it helped me in the exam. I got a C on the paper.
I got a C from it.
Like I got a grade that I wouldn't have got if I didn't have to do it.
Same. I didn't think I was going to get the grade that I did, and I did get the grade.
What grade did you get?
A C in the end.
And what does that mean?
That I passed and did better than I thought I would.
The fact that we interacted with the story and it was like more activities, like...
I found it more fun.
Yeah, like you could remember it more. It was like more memorable. A little bit, yeah.
Memorable.
Outside learning, like it got my memory thinking, and then I remember the trail, And then I went, oh, that's a nice quote for that point and all that.
The differences in the students, the differences with their results, the differences between with the relationships between the students and the staff are all different because of the project, and different in a positive way. And I think there really is legs for this kind of learning, this type of learning, to be rolled out across the country.
So would you recommend that way of learning for everything else as well?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
it's
I
actually,
would as well.
It is a good way of learning, I'm not going to lie. Something new. Like if someone hasn't tried it before, then maybe I'll help them as well.
It'd be nice to see more of these like projects going on in schools, just to like see what the outcome is.
Good for learning. I recommend it for every school to maybe boost the learning like funner, to make it like outside learning, and it will help people a lot.
Downsides?
Downside, it was a lot of hard work and a lot of resources to put into a relatively small group of children. It was frustrating and difficult at times, but I think the upsides have outweighed the downsides quite significantly, really.
And do you feel you work harder now?
Definitely.
Yeah. Improved like a lot.
And you're not just saying this for the camera, no one's making you say this?
No.
No.
If educational planners are seeing this, do you feel that you guys have got something to teach them about what it is to be learning in school?
Yeah, because what like the adults see as us learning is totally different to us. Like they see it as head down, silence, working. But if we have a different way to work, as in like in the woods, for example, it's more fun and then it sticks to us more, instead of just putting pen to paper.
I remember it being really fun. I used to look forward to doing it all the time.
It was like a breakout on normal lessons. Like, so you weren't just getting bored all the time, there's like different things to do.
Can we do it again?
I wouldn't mind it.
I'd do it again.
What that video makes clear is that if we are going to connect young people with their creativity, and in this way strengthen their learning, we are going to need teachers to teach differently, to make quite radical changes in their practice in order to make this connection possible. These will be brave teachers, teachers who are willing to bring into the classroom a range of new practices and constantly explore new ways of engaging young people. This next video is one made by a Scottish teacher, which is laying out what the manifesto of the brave teacher of the future will be.
Brave Teacher Manifesto. I am here to plant seeds and water them, knowing that I will not always see them bloom. I am not here to create brains to be carried in jars at the expense of being real and alive. When the master's tools no longer serve this, it is my duty to create something better. I am also here to light fires and not to be afraid of their brightness or ferocity. I am here to get it right, not to be right. People matter. Always listen, especially when you don't like the answer. A class is a living, breathing thing. Allow it to do both. Leave room for life and joy and questions and mess. This is learning. Be brave about being human. You are not perfect, neither is anyone else. If is fine, do nothing. But as the world changes, so must my work. Rules are suggestions and truth is subjective. Curiosity is unruly and standard progression is fiction. Do the best you can today with what you've got, but keep moving in the direction of better. Small steps taken in the right direction will get you there more surely than one giant leap. Keep moving. Be brave. You are not alone.
The challenge for us for the future is to continue to keep the arts at the heart of learning, and at the same time to provide further support to teachers to enable them to adopt the principles of the Brave Teacher Manifesto and to let it infuse all aspects of their work. This is a big challenge for all of us. It doesn't just apply in Germany, but it applies in countries all over the world. And this will be the future that we hope to see developed if we meet again in 10 years' time to see what further developments there have been. Thank you for listening.